Far away out past the moon came a little pink friend all alone. There's a house with a girl inside, such a nice and to his bride. Katie sees a friend in need, Orbie. It's Katie and Orbie, and here's a bunch of stories about Katie and Orbie and all the things they do. Katie's friend Orbie now has a brand new family who teach him that people all have some good inside. Fly a kite, find a snake, camp outside or learn to skate. Build a snowman with your friend Orbie. Fly a kite, find a snake, camp outside or learn to skate. Build a snowman with your friend Orbie. Adventure and playtime should always last a lifetime. And with friends like Orbie, the fun is guaranteed. So Katie and Orbie are ready with their story, playing and learning from all the things they do. As the sun begins each day, our new friend is here to stay.
It had been a quiet morning. Katie discovered that some toys aren't much fun when the batteries run out. Orbie found out that once a can of marbles hits the floor, they go in all different directions. And they both learned that if you fold paper in a certain way, you can turn it into a plane and fly it across the room. At lunchtime, Katie told Mom that she had read every book in her collection and she really needed more. Mom sighed as she ladled out the tomato soup. She needed a new book, too. Orbie trumpeted that he would really like a book about spaceships traveling in outer space. Mom sat down to eat and snapped her fingers as she did. This afternoon, we'll visit the library, she said. Katie and Orbie clapped their hands. This was an excellent idea. Katie and Orbie had never been to the library, although they'd heard about it from Mom and Dad. And as they walked down the street, Katie imagined a huge place where books were stacked as high as a house. Orbie imagined that there was a big machine and you pushed a button that made your book come flying out. Mom giggled and told them that both of them weren't quite right and to hold on to their imaginations because the library was just around the corner. Katie and Orbie raced ahead, but Mom called them back. When you're in a part of town that isn't your neighborhood, it's very important to stay close to an adult. The doors of the library were very tall and had fat gold handles on them. They were a bit heavy, so Orbie let Mom help open it. Inside, there were people standing in what looked like a checkout line at the grocery store. Mom told the two friends that there was no food in here, only books. As they clicked through the turnstiles, walls rose up around them. Walls that were covered in millions of books. Katie couldn't count to 1,000,000 yet, but she knew that that meant more than you could ever carry. Right away, Orbie pulled out a big fat book and put it on the floor. He burbled that maybe this one was about outer space. Katie was about to pull out a book too when Mom asked them to stop. These books were for grown-ups. Orbie was kind of glad because all there was in his book was printing. Not even one small picture. Mom told Orbie that that was the way grown-ups liked their books. Mom held their hands as they walked through the rows of books. Mom explained that it was important when you took a book off the shelf to try to put it back in the same place. On the spine of the books, there were some numbers and letters that told the librarians where to put the books away when people were finished. Katie and Orbie looked, and there were the numbers and letters looking back at them. Mom was right. They came to a glass door, and Mom told them that on the other side was the children's part of the library. This door was easy for Orbie to open. So he did, and in they walked. This room was beautiful. It was full of bright pictures on the walls, some toys, comfy chairs, pillows, and tons of books. What Katie and Orbie liked about these books was that they were bright and colorful and full of pictures. With a toot and a spin, Orbie was off. Mom tapped Orbie on the shoulder and told him it was a rule that you had to be quiet in the library. That way you wouldn't disturb anybody who was reading a book. Mom felt it was important to know the rules, and from then on, Orbie was quiet. Right away, Katie found a book about a cat that looked like Chance. Orbie couldn't find anything on space. Mom brought the librarian over to meet Orbie. She explained that the librarian knew all the books in the children's library, and she could show him where to find the books he wanted. Orbie was a bit shy, but the librarian crouched down and asked Orbie what kind of books he liked. Orbie burbled that he liked books about rockets and space. The librarian took his hand and led him to the right bookshelf. Orbie smiled a great Orbie smile. Orbie liked them all. When he came back with the librarian, he had his arms full of books. Mom was reading the cat book to Katie. They were sitting in a great big beanbag chair. Orbie nestled in with them too and started to look through his books. Soon the librarian, whose name was Susan, asked them if they would like to see a puppet show. Katie said yes, and Orbie tooted. Then he remembered the keep quiet rule and apologized. Susan thanked Orbie for remembering. In an open area, a little stage with a puppet theater was set up. The show was about to begin. Katie and Orbie sat on the floor with the other children and watched the show. Mom sat on a chair at the back of the room. The puppet show was about a little dog that lost his way home and all the animal friends who helped him. Katie was really glad he finally got home. And Orbie loved all the funny parts. At the end of the show, Mom said that it was time for them to get back home, and they could each choose 3 books to borrow. At the desk, the lady opened up the books and showed the 2 friends the little piece of paper in the back. She dragged her electronic pen across Mom's library card and then across the barcode on the back cover of the book. Each time the pen went across the barcode, it beeped. Orbie thought this was quite wonderful and told Mom that perhaps one day he would be a librarian. Mom smiled at him. That was a good idea. The librarian told them that the books were due back in 2 weeks. Katie looked at Orbie, and Orbie looked at her. That meant they would be back soon. Orbie almost tooted, but he remembered the keep quiet rule. He thanked the librarian, and so did Katie, and they turned to the big, tall doors. On the way home, Katie told Mom that it was very nice of the library to lend their books, and Mom agreed. They liked everybody to borrow their books, read and enjoy them, and then bring them back so that someone else could have a turn. And do you know that there is a library near you where you can do the same thing? Maybe you'll even borrow the same books that Katie and Orbie did. You never know.
Did you know? No. Did you know? Did you know? Horses wear shoes just like people. But they don't wear sandals, slippers, or sneakers. Snowshoe rabbits don't wear snowshoes, but they do have really, really big feet.
Katie discovered that typing on Mom's computer makes a nice clicking noise. Orbie found out that when papers get out of order, they're hard to straighten out. And they both discovered that helping Mom with her office work was a lot of fun. Mom got a call around mid-morning and found out that she had to finish her office work quickly. She asked Katie and Orbie to find something fun to do while she worked. Katie and Orbie sat on the couch and looked out of the living room window. Going to the park would be fun, Orbie tootled. But Katie reminded him that they couldn't go there without Mom. Maybe they could go to the library. But no, they needed Mom for that too. Just when it was starting to look like a boring day, a taxi drove up to the front of the house. It was Great Uncle David. He was wearing a long gray coat and had 2 boxes under his arms. Katie and Orbie flung open the door and surrounded him in a hug. Great Uncle David laughed and gave both of them a kiss. And when Mom came out to see what was happening, he explained that he had a free day, so he thought it would be fun to introduce his 2 friends to roller skating. I don't have to tell you that both friends thought this was the greatest idea. And to tell you the truth, so did Mom. Katie and Orbie opened up the 2 big boxes. In each one, there was a pair of roller skates, a helmet, and some protection pads. Orbie tooted and did a flip to show Great Uncle David how happy he was. The pads went on the elbows, the wrists, and the knees. Mom helped put them on the 2 friends. Orbie wanted to put the roller skates on, too, but Great Uncle David told him that first they would go to the park. Roller skating wasn't as easy as it looked. They needed room to practice. So 3 happy people walked down the sidewalk, and Mom closed the door and raced back to work. At the park, Great Uncle David helped both Katie and Orbie fasten their skates. He showed them the brake on the heel that helped them slow down when they needed to. He told them that at first they would try skating 1 friend at a time until someone got the hang of it. Of course, Orbie wanted to go first, and Katie was just as happy to wait. She wasn't too sure how to work the roller skates. Orbie carefully got off the bench and stood up. So far, roller skating was a cinch. Until he noticed that even though he was standing still, the trees and the bench were moving away from him. Great Uncle David reached out and grabbed Orbie. He chuckled and told him he was going the wrong way. Orbie tried to go forward, and he pushed off from his skates like ice skating. But all they did was flip up, and he almost fell forward. Great Uncle David told him that it takes a little time to get used to them. Orbie couldn't agree more. Next, it was Katie's turn. Great Uncle David held Katie's hands and pulled her along. He told her to keep her feet straight and try to keep her legs together. Katie did a very good job. When Orbie saw what Katie was doing, he wanted to try it too. So Great Uncle David gave him a turn. Both of them were fine as long as they held on. It was then and there that Great Uncle David had a terrific idea. He asked Katie and Orbie to hold on to his long coat, and he would walk. If they kept their feet together and straight, he could take them for a ride, and they could learn to balance. Both friends grabbed the side of his coat and held on tight. Katie was a little wobbly until Great Uncle David started to walk. Great Uncle David walked over the paths all through the park. There was plenty of whooping and hollering going on behind him, and great bursts of laughter. Great Uncle David couldn't help laughing himself. When they passed the climber, Arthur jumped down and ran beside them for a while. Yi Ping was on her trike, and she rode with them for a while, too, waving and ringing her bicycle bell. When they finally finished going around the whole playground, Great Uncle David asked if they were ready for a rest. Katie's feet felt a bit wobbly, so she was ready to sit down, but Orbie, he wanted more. Great Uncle David asked him to try it on his own, now that he understood the balance part. Orbie did. He rolled one step, then another, and then another. Katie clapped and whooped for Orbie. He was doing a great job. Then Orbie came to the tiniest little slope in the walkway. And all of a sudden, he started to go faster and faster. Great Uncle David shouted at him to try the brake, and Orbie did try, but I have to tell you that he just kept going. Great Uncle David started to run after Orbie. When Arthur heard Orbie honking for help, he ran after him too. It looked like Orbie might go right out onto the street, and Great Uncle David was very upset. He ran as fast as he could, but Orbie was rolling faster. And just then Tom came along the street on his bike. He heard all the shouting, and he saw Orbie racing toward the street. Tom jumped off his bike and ran toward Orbie. He caught him in his arms, and although the roller skate wheels kept rolling, Orbie stopped. Great Uncle David puffed up behind Tom and thanked him. He told Orbie how sorry he was that he hadn't realized what could happen. Orbie turned to him and beamed. That was possibly the best adventure of his life, and he wanted to try it again. Tom told him that no adventure was good near a road. They all walked back to Katie, who was clapping for Tom for saving the day. Tom parked his bike and helped Katie and Orbie skate between himself and Great Uncle David. When they finally got it right, they hurried home to show Mom. Mom was delighted. They told her about rolling behind Great Uncle David, and Mom wanted to see. When they showed her, she took pictures. They were going pretty fast, and Mom was glad that they had had fun and learned to roller skate, but mostly she was glad that they were being safe. And if you ever roller skate, you need to remember to be safe too, because I just happen to know that somebody is crazy about you.
Did you know? No. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know?
There are different things that you can do with macaroni. You can paint it and use it in a pitcher, put it on a string and make it into a necklace, or put some in a jar and make a musical instrument. But one of the best things to do with macaroni is eat it.
It had been a complicated day. Katie discovered that you can't always have Mom and Dad stay home, even if you want to. Orbie found out that doing up a tie is very confusing. And they both learned that walking around in Mom and Dad's shoes when they needed them to go out wasn't a good idea. Mom and Dad needed to hurry. They would be late if they didn't leave right away. Dad was going to watch Mom win an award for her work. He was very excited. Mom was nervous because she wasn't so sure she'd win. After 3 good luck kisses from both Orbie and Katie and a thumbs up from Tom, they finally closed the door. Now, Katie and Orbie loved it when Tom came over because he played with them and they all had fun. But tonight, Tom told them that he had a big project to do for school. Katie and Orbie weren't too sure what a project was, but they wanted to help him. Tom explained that he had to do the project himself. He said that Mom had suggested that tonight Katie and Orbie watch a video while he did his project. Orbie looked at Katie, and Katie looked right back. They almost never had videos on a weeknight. This was a real treat. Within minutes, they were at the video store. Katie and Orbie kept running to Tom with different videos, but they couldn't agree on one. Finally, Orbie found one that looked like fun. Katie thought it looked like fun, too. It was not really a movie for young children, but Tom didn't notice that. He rented the movie, and they walked back home. At home, Tom made popcorn and set Katie and Orbie up in front of the TV. He turned it on and then told them he'd better leave before the movie starts or he would want to watch it too. He went into the kitchen and started his work. When the movie started, Orbie could barely contain himself. It was an action-adventure story, and Orbie loved these. Katie liked it too because the man who was talking at the beginning was very funny. They snuggled up and munched on popcorn as the movie played. Tom came in twice to see if everything was all right. When he saw that the two friends were happy, he went back to his work without watching the screen. He knew if he looked, he'd be in trouble. After a while, Katie came into the kitchen and asked if Tom was finished his work yet. Tom wasn't even nearly done, but he did give Katie a quick ride around the kitchen on his back to get to the fridge, where he poured her another glass of juice. Later, Orbie came in and tooted to Tom. He asked if a man could really lift up one end of a truck. Tom thought about it for a moment and said that maybe 1 or 2 men in the whole world could, but that it was probably too heavy for almost everybody else. Orbie shot back to the movie. Katie was watching the movie, but she'd pulled the blanket over her cheeks and almost over her eyes. Orbie wondered why she was doing that. Katie told him the movie was scaring her. Orbie burbled that was just silly because there was nothing scary on the screen. He sat down beside Katie and watched the video. Katie was now right under the blanket and blocking her ears. Orbie borrowed a little piece of the blanket and held it to his hands. This part was a bit scary. Tom finished up his homework and closed his books. He took a juice out of the fridge and walked back into the living room. Katie and Orbie were nowhere to be seen. Tom was very worried until he noticed 2 huddled bumps under the covers. On the TV, there was a big, horrible red-eyed monster. Tom looked at it for a second, and then he turned it right off. He told Katie and Orbie the movie was off now, so they could come out. Orbie peeked out first, then came Katie. They were both very frightened. Tom explained that there was really no such thing as a red-eyed monster. It was a costume with a man inside it. He explained that all the creatures and monsters in the movies were make-believe. None of them really existed. Actors in strange costumes played the parts. When Tom looked at Katie and Orbie, and he saw 4 eyes as big as saucers, he began to understand that he had made a mistake. He apologized to the 2 terrified friends and told them that he shouldn't have rented that movie. The movie was for older children, and he should have known better than to rent it for them. He explained that he didn't know what kind of movies they usually watched. Even though Tom explained about the movie and that it wasn't real, both Katie and Orbie still looked frightened and uncomfortable. So Tom made a decision. He had finished his project, and now he would make them forget about the movie before they went to bed. At first, he did his best wobbly walker imitation. Orbie giggled, but Katie still couldn't think funny. Then he offered pony rides around the room and a turn on the bucking bronco. When it was Katie's turn, she laughed so hard that she almost fell off. At bedtime, Tom told them a story of Wiggly the worm who wanted to find his way into an apple. First he bumped his nose, and then he hurt his side trying to push the apple open, and finally he got so angry at the apple, he bit it. And guess what? He found his way in. Well, I have to tell you that Tom doing the imitation of Wiggly the worm and the silly story combined made Katie and Orbie laugh. Even when Tom turned out the light and left the room, they were still chuckling. When Mom came home with her award, she kissed both Katie and Orbie. Katie told her about the movie, and Mom said she was glad that Katie had realized it was not a good movie to watch. She told Katie that when she was older and knew more about how movies were made, she might like to watch something like that. Katie said she didn't think so. Mom said it was good to be a discriminating viewer, which means to watch what you think is good for you. And do you know, you should be a discriminating viewer too, because you're growing a special person. And that special person is you.